It's got a lag in what I say, so I do know that. I'm getting ready to stream again. And I'm just going to go through the whole training and tape it. Okay, it looks like we're live. I'm going to wait until the video loads for everybody. It looks like it's starting to load. Sorry for the delay in the training time. There was some technical difficulties, which you probably heard on some of the recorded videos. And now I think we may be up and running. If not, this will be a taped event. If you would like a certificate for completing the training, please email me and I'll provide that on Education Universe's page so that you can email me and I will send you a quiz over the information that was provided. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I'm an educator. I teach in the classroom and online, and I provide ADA compliant documents in my classes. And the reason for this is so that people who have a disability can use a reader. You always want to make sure that you go ahead and do this ahead of time so that you don't have to worry about doing it later when a student does need it. So it's already available to them. We're going to go over some basics. There'll also be, because of the live feed issue until it's fixed, what I'll do is I'll post periodic videos for you in different areas of ADA compliance. Today we're going to cover Word and PowerPoint to some degree, depending on how the live feed goes. And also, we're going to not just go over the basics, but I believe in hands-on stuff. So if you want to go along with me, you can actually minimize part of your screen so that you can see Word, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute if you're not familiar with it. And then you won't see this screen that you're seeing right now because I'll be doing the presentation. You'll be seeing what I'm doing instead of the screen here. So let's go ahead and talk about this. Again, we're gonna cover Word and PowerPoint, and we're gonna hopefully you have Word on your computer and PowerPoint because I'm gonna ask you to open documents at different times so that you can sort of follow along. We're gonna do the basics and some of the barriers and problems that you might come across because I think that's probably the easiest way to teach this. So the very first thing that I want you to do, and I want to talk just briefly about some of the things we're going to cover. We are going to talk about, and I found information on this so that I could give you some sources later if you'd like to email me at the end of the presentation. The Department of Rehabilitation's ADA requirements is a good source for you if you would like to look that up, and I also have links for you that I'll either try to provide at the end of this or I will email them out to people. I do not share emails, so feel free at the end of this to go ahead and email me, and I will also provide that so that you can do so. So let's talk a little bit about Word. First of all, here's some basics, and we're going to run through all of these. For an ADA compliant document, it's really important that it can be read easily. You might find this problem in online class setup also. So this really applies to the design of most documents when you're thinking in ADA terms. First of all, I teach my students to use Times New Roman 12 font, but the most friendly ADA compliant fonts are Arial and Veranda, and I'm going to show you those in a Word document so that we can go through that. Another requirement is that it has appropriate color, and if you think in terms of readers and simplicity, it really makes sense to have a plain white background and black text. That is one of the most common and the easily, it's much more easily read as well. You also, if you have tables, that is a frequent mistake that we make whenever we're creating these documents, is just simply creating those tables correctly. And one of the issues that you might come across are things like header issues, blank column spaces, and also you're also asked to be very specific, and you'll have an alternate text. And this will all make sense soon. We're going to go through all the steps on this and show you exactly what this means. Hyperlinks, so links to websites that you're providing, ADA compliance can be kind of finicky in Word, so you have to make sure you set it up in a very specific way, describing the link. And if you want to actually provide the link, you do, but it's not an actual hyperlink when you provide the link address. So I'll show you that as well. Also using built-in formatting styles. That's important. So when you're in Word and you're doing the formatting styles, you want to use the ones in Word. Now, what that means is that frequently you can find new ones out there that you can download and use, and so you don't want to do that. You want to go ahead and use the ones that are already built into Word ahead of time. And then another thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to actually check accessibility and see if there are any issues in your document, so that you can resolve those before you use the document or before you provide it electronically, which is many times the case. So let's go ahead and open a Word document, and I know you're probably familiar with how to do that, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how it's done on my computer. Some people have uh, they have a link on their desktop so they can go and double click it, but on my computer I simply click on the menu, and it's one of my frequently used documents, and you can actually go down and you can go to your all apps to find yours if it doesn't come up for you that way. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Word document, and we're going to give it a second to come up here. And we're going to go through some of these issues that you might come across. We're not going to create an entire document, but I want to show you how to look for these problems, how to correct them when you do come across them, because that's going to be the main thing. And one of the things that people frequently don't realize is that there's a very easy way to see what's going on as you go so that you don't have to make all those corrections at the end. So here you just have a plain Word document. One of the first things we're going to do, if you look up here, these are headers, and I'm not going to show this today, but I want you to know something about these. When you're using the headers from this list, you're going to see heading 1, heading 2, and once you type in heading 2, you're going to see heading 3. In ADA compliant documents, you cannot skip heading levels. So if you're wanting to do a heading 1 and then skip to smaller heading 3, which is basically a bolded regular font, that's not going to work for you. It's going to throw an issue with ADA. So, and it's very confusing to someone who's using a reader because they think that heading 2 is suddenly missing. So it makes sense. So if you want to make something the size of heading 3, all you have to do is bold your text, and that will work just as well. It doesn't count as a heading, and readers don't get confused when you do that. So let's have a look at the font. The very first thing that I mentioned at the beginning of this is that Arial and Veranda are the standard font. So I want to show you, there are a couple different ways you can find these up here. When you go up here to your font type, you're going to look at it, and of course I use Times New Roman a lot, and this is set on Calibri, which is not one of the recommended ADAs because it's sort of light colored. You can either type in the appropriate one, which is Arial, and you'll see it pops up, or you can go down the list in alphabetical order. If you wanted Veranda, which is a little bit different, it will actually take you to Veranda, and then you can click on it, or you can just scroll down in your list. I think today we're going to go ahead and use Veranda since we're down there. And remember what I said about the font. It is supposed to be 12 font. So go ahead and set it at Veranda and 12 font, and we'll get started. One of the first things I want to show you is the heading. And the very first thing we're going to do is set a heading. So heading 1. And we're going to make a student class list in this lesson. So there's my heading. And when you go to the next line, it automatically is going to go to normal, which is Calibri, which we're going to have to reset this time. So Veranda should already be at the top. You can go ahead and reset that one. And it's just a default thing that happens in Word that you just have to deal with as you're going. You can also fix your fonts after the fact, but it's much easier to go ahead and fix it now. The next thing I want you to do, you've already seen this, and before we go too far, I want you to open your accessibility checker. To do that, we're going to go to File, And you're going to see this, it may look a little bit different on different versions of Word, but most of them have the same components. You're going to go check for issues, and right here is check accessibility. And I like to do that on all my documents because I can see a live results here. No accessibility issues found. So any reader can read this. You know, if you had a student who perhaps had vision impairment and they were using a reader, it would definitely be easier to use this. Now I'm on single spacing. Of course, you can change it, and the reader uh, is still going to be ADA compliant. I always recommend removing spaces after paragraphs, which is up here in the double one-sided arrow. So that would fix that. And let's go ahead and make our student list. So I'm going to put a description here because it's probably something that you would be doing if you're making a document. The following list is includes, let's do includes students and ages. And these are, of course, fictitious because we have FERPA laws that we can't share information on students. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is enter. And look what happens if I enter twice. It's saying repeated blank characters. So let's go with this and see what happens so you know how to correct any problems that occur. We're going to insert a table. And this is an important step because if you don't set your table headers correctly, you're going to have a lot of problems with this. It's going to throw errors in your document as well. In this case, we're just doing the student name and the age. So we're just going with 2. And you see there's a lot of problems over here. So we're going to fix these in a minute. We're going to go ahead and put name, because that's the student's name, and age. And I'm going to make up some names here. Lily, she's 16, and Thomas, he's 17, and Mary, she's 15. So here's our students. Now if I do this, it won't throw an error. But if I tab and I have empty spaces, if you look over here, it says repeated blank characters. So you don't want to have any blank characters in this. Now, if this table were to span more than one page, you're going to have a header designated anyway. So I'm going to show you how to do some of this. This says missing alternative text, and what that means is that you haven't told your document what to call this, and that's important when you're doing ADA documents. So if you didn't see that, if you go click the table on the little icon here, right click, go down to table properties, you're going to see a lot of options here. So the first thing we're going to do is alternate text, and it's really important that you put a good description in here. We already know what this is. This is a student class list, and let's just do this list is a student. Let's do a partial, because it probably is. Partial student list for the gifted and talented students. Okay, so we've got that, and that's going to take care of this issue, but we also want to designate a header. So let's go back in here and table properties, and we're going to go to row. And what you're going to see is allow row to break across the pages. So what happens is if you don't repeat as header row at the top of each page, you're going to have a problem. So it's logical that this is the header row. So let's go ahead and highlight the header because it says name and age. And we're going to go to table properties, and your row is already up. If it's not, it's going to be on table, and you just go to row and you click repeat as header row at the top of each page. That means if your list is 5 pages long, every time you get to the next page, you're going to have a header row there, and that is to alleviate any confusion. So we've got that typed, and we're going to hit OK. Now that is not an error that you would see over here because you don't have 3 pages or 5 pages of a list in a table format. So just keep that in mind that that's not something that you're going to see here. So let's go ahead and go to the next item. So appropriate color, white background with black text. We already have that here, so there's no issues with that. If you were going to go with any other color, say you were doing a Blackboard course, and you wouldn't want to do that here, you could use a black background with white text, but that would just be cumbersome in a Word document. So plain is better. And although we do love to make beautiful things for ADA purposes, and you can still do that, but you have to do it a little bit differently, we need to really stick to the basics. So we've done alternative text. That's the alternate text that we just did, where we filled in the description and the title here. Next, I want to show you how to do that with a picture. So many times you're going to have a picture in your document, and you're going to want the document to stay ADA compliant. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to insert, and we're going to insert a picture. And this picture is actually from my daughter's YouTube channel that I'm going to choose. We're going to just choose that and insert it. And so you see the picture here. Now you already see that your accessibility checker has found a problem, and it's the missing alternative text. So that's very important. You're wanting to describe your document or your picture or your table. So on this one, you are still going to do the same thing, except it's going to say format picture. So it's a little bit different in terms of labeling it. And this is just if you wanted to go ahead and make changes to the picture. You'll go to this one, layout and properties, and automatically you're going to see the alt text. So once you click that, we're going to title this Pretty Perfect Girl, which is the name my daughter chose for YouTube channel, and we'll just put new YouTube channel for daughter. And of course, this probably wouldn't be your graphic, but that gives you an idea of how to take care of this. So once you're done with that, click outside the box and just X out of it. It's already recorded that it's taken care of, and you are finished. So if you had, say you were making a syllabus for a course or whatever it was, you would have your graphic up here. You would do the alternative text to indicate what it was, and then start your document. Now the big thing here is to make sure you're not putting extra spaces and correcting those. So if you ever find that you need more spaces, just change your spacing up here. It alleviates any confusion that might occur, and it's really simple to do. So let's go on down here and talk about a few more things that you'll be seeing. So we specified the column header. So the first thing we did is appropriate style and font, and we talked about Veranda and Arial. And then the second we talked about was appropriate color, which is typically a white background or black text in terms of Word documents. Then the alternative text, and this applies to anything, a symbol, a picture, a table. So you've seen a few examples of that here. Then you're going to specify your column header, and the way that we did that was we went up here and we chose what header we wanted, and we did this same exact process as we did to name this. So we just checked the box, so indicating that the header would go to the next page. Then the hyperlinks is the next thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to my YouTube channel here, and I'm just going to copy a link up here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it. And I'm going to show you what happens if you do this as a hyperlink and it's not a descriptive word. So if you're keeping an eye on this accessibility checker over here, you're going to see that, well, you're going to see how to correct it in just a moment. So I'm going to paste this. And normally when we're typing something like a hyperlink, we'll hit enter, and the first thing that happens is that it highlights that. And if I ever want to go access that, I just hit control and click it with my mouse. Well, in ADA, you can't do it that way. It has to be a descriptive hyperlink. So basically, if I couldn't see and I was using a reader, this would make no sense to me. HTTPS youtube.com live dashboard. Well, what does that really mean? And that's basically the reason that you change this. So when you see up here, it tells you you've got your unclear hyperlink text. So let's go ahead and enter, and I'm going to show you how to fix this pretty easily. So this is a link to the YouTube live feed for ADA compliant documents. Excuse me. Okay, so on this, I already have saved my hyperlink, right? So let's go ahead and you can either highlight link or you can highlight the whole sentence. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the whole sentence. And then I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to add my hyperlink. So here's where you stick the hyperlink and you just paste it wherever you got it from and hit OK. Now notice there's no new error here. Now what I would do with this is go ahead and if you want to provide a hyperlink address for people who do not need ADA compliant documents and you want them to be able to copy and paste it, especially if you hand this out in a class or something, they're not going to have the actual hyperlink to copy and paste into your browser so that you can access that. So we're going to remove that hyperlink and look what happens. So you've provided a nice neat link for people to click on to get to where they need to be. And you've also provided the actual direct link. And if you ever hit enter like this and mess that up, all you have to do is hit Control CTRL in your bottom left hand corner of your keyboard and hit Z at the same time and it's going to remove that. That just tells it undo what I just did. And then you can, keep typing. So hopefully that helps you keep that straight. So use built-in formatting styles. All that means is that if you're going to do something here, you want to use really all of these styles. So you don't want to go in and import any new styles that maybe aren't going to work at all. Now notice though that headers change their fonts. Now I would say that that could be a problem, but it is the predetermined headings that Word provides. Preferably, you could change this to veranda and go to 12, and that's really the preference. So, and I know that's kind of a pain, but it can really help you provide good quality ADA documents where you don't have to worry about doing that at a later time. So we've gone over the hyperlinks and using built-in format styles and checking accessibility. And notice this for characters. It's just saying, hey, you've got spaces. But if I start typing, this is the end of the list. Okay, and that's a heading. You wouldn't use that as a heading, but it's an example heading. And then you just hit enter. There are no accessibility issues found. Now, if I was going to end my document here and I was not going to add a header, I would want to go up here and delete those spaces. So to get rid of that. So as is, this document is ADA accessible and it includes, clear words and, it includes defined pictures, descriptions of everything that you would need to create this ADA document. So I'm going to give you this list one more time of the guidelines for that, general guidelines for Word to end this portion of the presentation, which was appropriate style and font size. That would be Arial or Veranda, and 12 point are the best to use. And then number 2 is appropriate color, white background, generally speaking, with a black text. And then alternative text and captions for anything that is not just plain text or hyperlink, because that's a different issue as well. Then also always specify column headers and have them repeat on each page. Hyperlinks must be meaningful, and you can also provide the link address afterward where people can copy and paste if they'd like, or copy the address if you're handing out actual just handouts. Use built-in formatting styles. So don't import anything new, and always use your check accessibility function because it's a really good tool to use. So I'm going to X out of this and we're going to start a new one. We're going to start our PowerPoint session, and it's kind of going to be the same type of activity that we're going to do. so that you can see how that works as well. And I'm not going to save this. So, okay. So let's go ahead and open a PowerPoint. So we're going to go down on mine. It's located here. It's going to come up. I use it quite a bit, so I'm going to PowerPoint. Now this one's a little tricky because we like to make things beautiful. So, and you can get into trouble a little bit with beautiful PowerPoints because it's not plain enough. It needs to be sort of plain and easy design. So that it's not interfering with any tools that are helping someone read your document. So, a couple pointers here that I'd like to point out for this presentation is that your text must be easy to read. Now, I recommend the same font that you used in Word, which was Arial or Veranda 12 point. Some people do use different ones, but I highly recommend that you are consistent with this. And just remember it. And the presentation text should be easy to read. So, long, elaborate, confusing words and sentence structures might not be the best thing to make all of your presentations ADA compliant. I always suggest that people, especially if you're doing something online, is you create this and then you have the text very simply put, and then you also provide a recording with a transcript if you can, because that just pretty much covers everybody. So you can do an audio for someone who's visually impaired that covers it. You can do a visual with notes for someone who has hearing issues. So it may be a little extra work, but it's really worth it if you think about it, to make sure that people are providing these types of documents and the information's easily accessible to all people. Now, another thing about these documents, PowerPoints, is that you want them to be easily you want your navigation to be very simple and easy to use. So adding in transitions and all these colorful decorations and slide ins are not going to be helpful to someone who is using a reader. If the presentation template should also be very consistent throughout the presentation. So sometimes you'll see people, if we go up here to design, you'll see a lot of different designs, and people sometimes will do this in one design and then add one to the next one in another design. The same rules apply. So if you look at these, this particular PowerPoint template may not be the best. It at least has a darker background, but you really want to stick with very dark backgrounds or very light backgrounds. So for instance, the black one would be okay because it has white text, and the white one would be okay because it has black text. So let's just go ahead with black because that gives it a little bit of splash of color. So we're going to pick a very simple design. Then you also want to make sure that in this one as well, that any shapes or images or tables or anything like that all has alternative text. And that really is consistent throughout ADA compliant documents. So if you put in audio or visual media in your presentation, that also has to have alternative text. And the hypertext links have to be done the same as when you do Word. So yeah, you really see the consistencies in this that will help you develop ADA compliant PowerPoints as well. Now, transitions in the presentations are definitely can be a barrier to accessibility. So I really do not recommend those at all. If you do those for the purposes of a classroom presentation, perhaps you can provide an online or an emailed version without transitions. That's another option for people who want to provide these documents to students or just people in an organization or agency. So let's go ahead and get started with this one. We're going to kind of go through the same steps that we did with the Word document. So let's look at fonts. We've already got the header here. First, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and go to File. And this is a little bit different than the Word. you're going to go to File, and then some of you will have something that says information or properties in this list. If you do, go to that one, and then you'll see the check for issues. So when you click this again, you're just checking accessibility, and it's going to pop up with something that looks identical to your Word document. Now this is missing a slide title, and it will tell you each time you're missing something in one of your text boxes, because you don't want to provide any actual slides that are empty in any way. So this is a student class list, and we'll just put gifted and talented here. Okay, so let's go home here and have a look. This is Calibri Body 24, and the thing about this one is that it's so large that it's not going to be a problem for a reader to read. But again, at the end of the presentation, what you can do is go back through, select all text, and go ahead and change this, which is how I would handle this for an actual presentation, because it's really difficult to go in and change each one of these every time you type something. So let's go to the next one. We're going to do a new slide. We have to decide which one. So let's do title and content. And let's go ahead and see how to label a picture or label a table and all of that. So let's go ahead and type in list names. So we've told it we're going to list all the names, and down here in this box, the following is a list of students in, let's see, that are, okay, I'll get it right in a second. List of students who are in the gifted and talented section of the course. Okay, if there is such a thing. So we're going to insert just like we did in the last one, and we're going to go ahead and draw our table. And we had two. Now this, it's going to show up in a strange place, but we're going to move it. You can also make it long. So in ours, we had like 4 names or something like that. So let's go ahead and move this down. Now, one of the things you're going to have to change here, because the default is actually blue, is you want to go ahead and change this to a black background. So if you look here, it's saying missing alternative text. Sound familiar? It should. So we're going to go ahead and fix the table. You're going to right click. Hold on a second here. Okay. Let's get, okay, select the table, and we could add a hyperlink. I don't want to show you. Okay, format. Okay, here's another thing that I'll show you. It's pretty cool. So on this, it says alternative text for images and other objects is very important. So if you are ever in doubt on where to get this information, you can go over here to find it. But it's the same as when we did it in Word for pictures. So this table here, we're going to select the properties, and we're going to do alternative text. And this is going to be the student list, and we're going to talk about these are gifted and talented students. Okay, so we've got that done, and you notice that that one morning it left. So you're in good shape there. Let's go ahead and do name, just like we did, and age. And of course you can also change these to, you know, whatever font you want, which I was going to do at the end, but let me show you here, because the font in your tables tends to be smaller sometimes than any other place in your document on these PowerPoints. So let's go ahead and select all of these and go ahead and change it to our chosen font, just so you see that. And I think this time we'll use Arial instead of the other. So instead of Veranda. Now that looks awfully small on the PowerPoint, so let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. There you go. Okay, so we've got Jamie, who's 20, um, and Melanie, who's 19, and Joseph, who is 17. So we've got, if you notice, as we were typing, this completely disappeared as well. So you have to also check reading order. If you look at this, it tells you people who cannot. Okay, people who cannot view the slide will hear the slide text, shapes, and content read back in a specific order. You should verify that the reading order is good. And then it says switch to Home tab, click Arrange, and choose Selection Pane. The selection pane lists the objects. So let's go ahead and do this here in a second. First, I want to make these just a little bigger. We're going to go a little bigger than that. Okay, so we've got the same picture. Let's go here just a second and add in our picture so we can see all these errors. So let's do picture, for example, and you can actually get online pictures that are free to use, but we're going to use the one that I used in the other one. It's on my desktop. Okay. Okay, there it is. So suddenly I've got a new error here, and that is also for alternative text. So let's go ahead and format picture, just like we did. Okay, and then this again is the part where you're going to put in the alternative text. It's already popped up for us. So pretty perfect girl, and look at that, it already decided to leave. And then description, this is a picture on my daughter's YouTube channel. Okay, so we've got that done. So this whole entire PowerPoint slide is completed. Let's go back here because I want to remind you of the header issue. So remember how in the Word document we had to do a header thing. I want to show you what that looks like here. So you've got your select your table. Here it is. So on here now, the thing is that you're not going to have to worry about doing the header because you can't, in a PowerPoint, you can't go to the next page like you do in a Word document. So, and we do have our text options. We're not filling text outline, there's no line. So let's go back. Okay, so we're not putting, oh, I went to the wrong one. Okay, so here you've got your position, you've got horizontal position. I'm reading from top left corner, so you don't want to read from the center, and then it goes on to describe it. And then okay, now I want to go ahead and oops. Here's one way. Let me show you this. We won't do that yet. We'll save that for the last video. So once you've got that done, you've got all of your issues corrected here. You have checked the order, and anytime that happens, you're going to be able to go in and fix anything that you need to. So after the pictures and the table, let's look at the hyperlink. So let's go ahead and add a new slide, and let's just do this one. So we're going to go ahead and do a hyperlink for the YouTube live feed, and that way it'll show you how to do that. So let's do hyperlink for YouTube. And then this will be the last thing that we do in this this presentation. I'll give you my email so that you can ask me questions, and I'll be happy to answer those. Okay. So let's go back to the YouTube hyperlink. Again, you're going to want to make it meaningful. So this is a hyperlink for YouTube. And let's go ahead and add the hyperlink. I went and copied that if you missed it. And remember that it goes down here in the address, and you're just going to hit OK. And then so now you have this hyperlink that you typed. Now if we want to add just the actual address, we can post that, but if you hit enter, it's going to turn it into a hyperlink. So just make sure you don't hit enter, and remember that you can always hit Control and Z as in zebra together to correct that. If you do hit it and it turns into a hyperlink, it will tell it to undo it. So let's go ahead and change this to Arial. So you've got your Arial there. You can also select all, but I just want to remind you to remember to change your fonts at the end or at the beginning or as you're typing or however you want to do that to make sure that these are compliant. So if you look at what we did, we did the student class list, gifted and talented. We did the alternative text for this, and the following is a list of students who are in gifted and talented section of the course. It was a description that was in the background as well, and then a picture for your example on how to put the alternative text in the title and it, and then this shows you how to do the hyperlink. And those are probably the most important ones to remember. Also in this one, you won't want to forget to use the pre-built-in formatting style. So you don't want to go outside the box and download any new and wonderful fonts. One of the ones that you definitely don't want to use is script type things or blocky types of fonts. So really sticking with the basic Arial or Veranda is probably best. And always check your accessibility at the end of your documents. So I'm going to go over here and type in my email address that you can email me. I can send you some links to some helpful resources quite easily. They'll be as attachments in PDF or links online. I do not give emails away, so you don't have to worry about that. And the best email address to reach me at is creative and research writing at gmail.com. And I'm going to undo that. And my name's Jackie. And thank you for listening. So I'm getting ready to sign out. It may take a few seconds of delay on your end, but I hope you enjoyed the training. Please don't forget to like the channel, subscribe to the channel, and you'll get updates on new videos. If you look at this channel, there's also information on quite a few things that are up, like how to format papers and things such as that. There'll also be another training on this for other areas of Microsoft Office, and there'll be an advanced one on Word and PowerPoint at some point in the future, depending on feedback from this one. So feel free to send me a message. There'll also be a link below the video telling you how to contact me and providing a few of the sources that you can go have a look at to help you along with creating these ADA compliant documents. Thank you so much. Have a good day.